Today I'm going to talk about action research. As you see the title on the blackboard, action research. So what is action research? It is the concern of educators and teachers. It is linked to teaching practices and to didactic. Well, why or what is an action research first? We are going to see the definition and how to implement it. And why do we use action research? Well, before answering these questions I have asked, subscribe to Solo English and you will get more information about English language practices. Well, let's now consider the following definition. It is Hopkins 1985 said as definition, it is an action undertaken by teachers either to improve their own or colleagues' teaching or test assumptions of educational theory in practice. This is the definition. Now let's analyze the definition. When we read the definition, we focus on 2 points here: to improve their own or colleagues' teaching. This is first point. Second point is test assumptions of educational theory. Well, how to improve their own? So how to improve my teaching practices or my colleagues' teaching practices? Well, we know in teaching, we have meeting with the inspector. Teachers and the inspector meet each other and they organize demo lessons, what we call demo lessons. Demo lesson or model lesson. We can say model lesson or demo lesson. It is demonstration lesson. It is a lesson prepared and organized by teacher and a number of teachers. With the inspectors and teachers, you are going to observe the teacher's performance and students how they learn. And then at the end, they discuss the weak points and the strong points in the lesson. Then through this demo lessons, we create and we change some maybe some difficulties or some challenges that we face in our lessons, and then we seek for the alternative. This is how we improve my teaching practice or my colleagues teaching lessons. And then second point in the definition, test assumptions of educational theory. And now we know since 1960s and 70s and 80s, we have a number of theories and approaches and methods. Each time we change this method and we replace it by another. Now let's see the series of methods that we had in the past. We have OA or oral approach, and then we have SLT situational language teaching. It was method used in the past and then it is replaced by others. And then we have TPR, as you know it. TPR, it is total physical response. It derives from Krashen's theory. And then we have CLT, communicative language teaching. It is famous one. And then we have CLL, community language learning. And then we have standard-based approach. Standard-based approach and competencies appeared in 2007, 2003, 2004, 2007, and we are still dealing with it. Why do we have each period of time we will change from theory to method, from method to method, from theory to theory? Why? Because there are weak points in method and there are weak points in the approach, and we replace it by another approach. It depends on the time that we are following, because time changes and language teaching changes too. So this through observations of these techniques and these strategies in language teaching or any teaching, through observations, what do we do? We evaluate and we investigate, and then we analyze. Then we come up with a new idea, with a new alternative, with new strategy. This is how we deal with an action research. Now I'm going to see how to implement action research. This is today's objective. My objective is to how to implement this action research, and now I'm going to show you how to implement it. Okay, so this is the definition of action research. And action research, it is done by not just teachers, it can be educators, it can be linguists, it can be theorists. So each time we change and we seek for information. This is the objective of the action research. Here you are with implementation now, how to implement the action research. So according to Gibbard G 1992, he came up with 6 points. So of course, because of the space in my blackboard, we have 6 points. Let's follow one by one and we explain them. So it's necessary to go through these points in order to organize an action research, and we are going to see how I organize it, how I prepare it. First one is identify the issues, or identify the problems I have in my classroom, or maybe there are common problems in the classroom. So for example, let's explain the first one. How to identify the issue is maybe we have students reading strategies. For example, my students don't read, they can't read, and I'm going to seek why they don't read. The reasons why, maybe they have difficulties of reading because now 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the classroom, it's not enough. We can seek another strategy. For example, extensive reading stories, watching films and read. We encourage students to read. So we make it a habit. It's not just to come to classroom for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and we say, okay, read the text. This is not enough. Well, and then we have students writing. Students find it difficult to express themselves. They don't have enough vocabulary to use, when they take their pen and paper, they will write. When do they write? They will write just for test or for an exam. No, this is, we can encourage students to write with guided reading, copying, showing pictures and describe it. Okay, we can integrate speaking with writing together, and then we encourage them to make it a habit for them to write. They can take, maybe we have quick write to encourage them. We have 5 minutes, 10 minutes, write descriptions, what you see or what you hear. This is how we have difficulty with pronunciation in the classroom. Students don't pronounce well because they don't act out. They should act out the dialogue. They should be engaged in role play. They should listen to the native speakers. So improving pronunciation, it's a matter of practicing. If the students keep quiet in the classroom, of course it's difficult for them to pronounce, and that's why we have difficulty with pronunciation. Then we have participation, students' participation. Sometimes you have just 3-4 students who participate, and why they don't participate? Maybe they are afraid, maybe they are ashamed, maybe they don't understand, maybe they are not engaged, they don't get habits to act out in the classroom. This is to seek the reason why they don't participate. And then we have the time, the effect of the time on students' performance, especially from 11 to 12, the hour in the morning from 11 to 12, when they come and they study 4 hours or 3 hours, they get tired. the lesson is monotonous, is boring, and their performance is weak. Or in the afternoon, for example, from 5 to 6. From 5 to 6, we cannot perform well, especially when they come from physical education. When they come from sports, they have physical education from 4 to 5, and then from 5 to 6, they have English or another subject matter. Students don't perform well. Why? Because they are tired. Maybe it's boring, maybe of other affective filters. Well, this is problems that we have. So the main point is to identify the problem. So we choose one issue, one problem in which we make an action research. Then second point is seek knowledge. How to seek knowledge or get knowledge? We get knowledge through observation. As I said before, when we have a demo lessons, teachers, students, and one teacher is performing, of course, there is teachers which represents teaching strategy with students learning activities. And here we observe where are the defect. Is it in the lesson or in students? Maybe because of students when the classroom it's outnumbered, we have 40, 50 students in the classroom, the learning is slow. So here we can identify the problem, and we can seek knowledge through different strategies. First, observation. Then we have what we call field notes. Field notes in while we are observing, we put notes. We put, for example, why students don't participate, why we have just 2 or 3 students who participate in the classroom, the others are not. So we can put these notes, what we call field notes. And field notes is achieved through a process, through a series of observations, maybe 2 times a week, twice a week, or maybe each session, or maybe 4 weeks or 5 weeks. We follow these students who participate. If it's possible, we take a long time. Okay, and then we have maybe questionnaires. We put questionnaires in which we discover new information about the students' learning. And then we have diaries, students' diaries. Maybe it can be in Arabic, it can be in English or in French, to follow their weak points and their strong points, what they like and what they don't like. Okay, these are how to seek knowledge. Plan and action. What is plan and action? Is to ask, as a researcher, it can be a teacher or another educator, as a researcher, I ask question, where will the action research take place? And who are the participants? So I should identify, I should limit who are the participants. Is it primary school? Is it secondary school? Is it high school? Is it university? And where, of course, which class, which, okay. These are how we plan an action. Implement the action. Now I'm going to explain this point. Implement the action. It is procedure. So how to use the action research. What is the plan, or how to implement it, or what are the procedures to follow? So in this point we have okay, we have first location. So this is important, location. Participants, and number 3 is time, and number 4 it is context. So to implement an action research, we need this point, we need this procedure. So first, location. For example, I take secondary school in Morocco. We can take secondary school, we can take high school, we can take one level. Right, participants, classes, 2 classes of ninth grade students. 2 classes. I'm going to take 2 classes, not just 1 class because it's not enough. Okay, the age is 15, 16. You know, in 9th grade, we have students who are 15, 16, or 17. 17 it's in high school. And of course, the age is 16, 15, 16. And then time for 5 weeks. First term during, for example, October, November, December, or I can 3 months is too much. So, okay, we can just take 4 or 5 weeks, 1 month, to follow the students, the same students, to see in what way, for example, they are participating, or their pronunciation is good or bad, or their pronunciation, or it depends on the issue that we choose. Okay, and context, foreign language. It is English. Foreign language, or English as foreign language. Here is this is how we implement. So this is the plan now. I'm planning and implementing at the same time. So now here, when we have this, I take students, 4 or 5 students, and I'm going to attend the session during twice a week or once a week. And each session I put notes, and then I observe and put field notes. I take their utterances, I see how they participate, how they pronounce, and how they learn. And then maybe I'm going to interview them at the end of the session. I'm going to ask them some questions, what difficulties, what strategies they like, or what they don't like. Okay, interviews, and then I can put questionnaire. And then we have time, of course, duration is maybe 1 month, 4 or 5 weeks, or more than 4 or 5 weeks. And then we get the result from what we gather here. Through these observations and through these series of observation or implementation, I get data, I get the information. And when I gather the information, of course, I should compare it with what I get from their diaries, from their questionnaire, to put the common points that we can remark. And then I can compare these problems and these issues with other classes, with other teachers, to see what they have in common, or is it the same problem? Do they have the same problem in pronunciation, problem in practicing, for example, English, or they have the same problems? Okay. Number 5 is reflect on your observation. So reflecting on the observation means to study and compare the points that we have gathered, the data that we have collected, and we try to compare it between the classes, between the students observed, between the observation of other teachers maybe, and then we study this data, and we come up with a new, maybe hypothesis testing. We come up with theories. We come up with, as a linguist or as an educator, or it can be done by teacher himself. It can be done by a number of teachers. So when we reflect on our observation, it means to study, to see what are the results given through the observations of all the problems we have taken. And then at the end, 6, revise the plan. We revise in general all the 6 points, and to see why we have this method or this technique, whether it is effective or it has weak points and a strong way. If they have weak points, of course, they are going to change it with other alternatives, or to change it by another method. In fact, there is no perfect method. If you ask students or teachers what is the best method to use in the classroom, of course there is no best method. Sometimes we can use grammar translation method in the classroom. We can use audio lingual method, even if we are now dealing with standard based approach and competencies and so on. But in fact there is usually good points according to our observations, according to our remarks, and this is the action research. The action research is to observe the problems we have in our working, in our teaching in the classroom, and the teacher, of course, usually observes and practice at the same time. He can be an observer and he can be a teacher at the same time, but it is necessary to have another observer with us. Of course, we cannot observe at the same time because sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes it's good to control and to see why my students don't participate, why we have just 4 or 5 students who have good pronunciation. And when you seek this problem, you can find maybe the students are listening, they have more listening, they are interested because of their motivation, because of different reasons. If we stick just to the classroom and lessons with teachers in what we are doing when we are teaching, it's not enough. Action research is usually good both for teachers and for students. And we know the action research is permanent. It should be usually done. Why? Because the more we have, the more observation we make, the more remarks we get. In the past, we had different classes, different students, different schools. Now we need action research because things became complex, difficult. And the young people are interested because of technology, because of science, because of media, etc. So that's why our teaching strategies should be effective according to our observation. Thank you very much for today, and you are welcome to next videos, inshallah. Thank you.